over briefly some of the details of the webinar. So we have some of you connected over the conference line, and that's great. If you are connected over the conference line, please mute your computer speakers because that way we'll avoid any feedback. I have both the folks who are just connected on the webinar and the computer. You should all be able to hear one another. If you are just connected online through the webinar, you should hopefully be able to hear everybody, both of those of us on the phone and on the computer. You can either ask questions by typing in the chat box. You can see there's already some conversation going on there. You can also have side conversations with individuals by clicking on their name. So you can ask a question that way, or if you want to ask a question through your computer microphone, go ahead and raise your hand, which you do by clicking on the little person with their hand raised at the top of your screen, and I can enable your microphone. I've got everybody's microphone muted right now just to reduce the audio feedback. Great, Ashley Becker, who's in Starmont, she was just commenting that she went to the Beyond the School Hours conference and it was amazing, which was what we've heard from everyone in the past who's been to that conference. So good resource for future reference. Just a few reminders about 21st Century Stuff before we got started today. Everyone should have received an email from Michelle talking about the all-grantee meeting that's scheduled for March 28th. It's going to be at the Courtyard Marriott here in Ankeny. And we've got a very exciting and full agenda. We'll start at 8 a.m. With a breakfast. And then we have invited a gentleman named Coach D, which is how he calls himself. And he's going to do just some activities with us. He'll do kind of an opening speaker and then a brief workshop with all of us. If you were at the 21st Century Conference last summer, he was one of the presenters. So we're pretty excited to have him coming here to Iowa. Then we'll have lunch, and then we'll work on some network updates and statewide evaluation activities. As you probably know, we've been talking about this for a little while now. The Department of Ed has engaged outside evaluators to come in and do the statewide evaluation. So they're developing some tools and are interested in getting feedback from the 21st Century sites on the types of data that they're collecting, the methods that they're collecting, and you guys will have the chance to kind of test pilot some of those tools. And actually, if you're on the best practices evaluation committee, we're going to get a sneak peek at some of this this week. Our meeting is Thursday at 1 o'clock. So if you're interested in joining that committee, let me know and I can get you on the list. Otherwise, everybody will be able to see that at the March 28th meeting. Another relevant piece of information, as we speak, there is a press conference going on right now. Jason Glass, the director of the Iowa Department of Education, is holding a press conference about Iowa's request for a waiver for No Child Left Behind. And how that applies to us is that states have the option of what we call checking the box for 21st century. Most states who have so far applied for an NCLB waiver have checked the box to allow some greater flexibility of funds for 21st century money. We aren't sure at this point if Iowa has checked the box. I think we assume that Iowa has elected to do that, just not necessarily because there are any plans in place right now, but simply to provide that additional flexibility if they decide later that they want to do something with that. The only flexibility really that provides is because right now the code for 21st century does not allow that money to be used during the school day, and states that request that 21st century flexibility within their waiver, if they are granted that, would have some ability to use 21st century funds to support an extended or expanded school day or learning time. So hopefully we'll find out more information Stacy here in our office is actually at that press conference, so we are looking forward to hearing what Iowa has decided to do and if they have any plans. But all of the other existing restrictions around 21st century funds would still apply, so it still would not be able to supplant funding. It would have to engage community partners, kind of all those other guidelines. But we will be looking forward to more information from the Iowa Department of Education. So, any questions about 21st century stuff? Oh, one other note, there was an evaluation special webinar last week, and that recording is available online on the wiki. If you go to special webinars, it's available there. That was a great presentation by some of your peers around evaluation. Any questions? All right. Well, in that case, I think we will move on to things that are more exciting than me, which is you guys. So we are going to start off today. We've got 3 presenters. We have the Cedar Valley Boys and Girls Club with Nicole Recker presenting today on community partners. Then we will go over to Erica Mason with Lynn County Extension to talk about staffing, and then finally we will conclude with Angie Sada at the Council Bluff Boys and Girls Club talking about age-based programming and planning. So I'm going to switch over screens. We have changed the layout a little bit so that while we're doing the while we're on the PowerPoint presentations, you should be able to still ask questions. So again, you can either type questions in the chat box, you can ask them over the conference line, or you can raise your hand and I can enable your audio. So, okay. So Nicole, we're going to start off with you. Which I have to find yours. And now I've already forgotten. Did you want to run your PowerPoint or do you want me to?
If you want to run it, that's
fine. Great. Oh, geez. All right. All right, take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me. Hopefully I'm coming through clear enough for you guys. I'm talking today about engaging unique community partners. This came about after our site visit with Michelle and Claire. And, we've been in the community since 1944, so we have a little bit more of a tie-in. We have a lot of people that come find us, wanting to do some programs, or, they know we have the kids, and so can we do this or this or this? So through that, we've actually gained great partners, some unique, some not, some that all of you probably use. But for those newer programs, I think, a webinar like this would have been really helpful for me when I was first starting out running our after-school program at our school site. It just gives you some ideas of kind of who maybe you could contact, what other programs are doing, that type of stuff. So some of it might be a repeat, but some of it might be something unique that maybe you could try in your program. So throughout this PowerPoint, my whole idea was just to lay out most of the partners that we use for our program, and hopefully give you guys some ideas with that too. So one of our most unique partners right now that we have is the Humane Society. And we're partnering with the Cedar Bend Humane Society. This is pretty new for us. This came about probably, we could switch the page on that. This came about last November. Several of my coworkers and I had gone to a Boys and Girls Club regional training, and kind of after asking a lot of them, some new ideas that they were trying, what was working, what wasn't, over and over and over again, I had heard about a Read Dog program. So I looked into it a little bit when we got back, called the Humane Society. They were not doing anything like that yet, but they were not opposed to trying it. So through a couple of different meetings with their volunteer coordinator, we were able to kind of work on a plan that we thought would work for us. So basically, what we do with the Humane Society is Read Dog, and it's a national program with a different approach to reading. We have kids read to the dog. So the kids think it's really fun to have an animal in the room, and it takes a little pressure off of them reading, and they enjoy it a little more. The Humane Society comes out each week to each site once a week for a half hour. So we have 3 kids in the group, and they each get to read to the dog for 10 minutes. And this, like I said, this partnership came about just from me talking to different Boys and Girls Clubs, realizing that it worked, realizing it's something the kids really enjoyed, and then a simple phone call over to the Humane Society. Hey, is this something we can try? We did a couple test runs, and now it's part of our regular program schedule. All right. If you want to turn the page. Another really unique partnership that we have, we're fortunate to have a USHL hockey team in Waterloo, and on our board is their director of public relations. So she thought, hey, wouldn't it be great if we got the boys on the team a little more involved in the community, out, working with kids, that type of stuff. So this came about through that conversation and her wanting the boys to be doing some community service. So they started just coming to our site once a week. Every Monday they come. They just kind of played with the kids, which was great. But then we had another conversation of kind of how we could make it a little more structured, a little more program-like. So that's where the Bench Buddies program came about. And we were fortunate enough to get the insurance paid for by USA Gym. And this year it's the YMCA that's doing it. And basically every Monday we match 14 of our boys in our program with 14 Blackhawk hockey players. And they meet every Monday for an hour. They do different sports, basketball, hockey, swimming, kickball. It's a 10-week program. And then at the end of the program, they get tickets to one of the hockey games with their parents, and then they all get to go out on the ice with their hockey mentors and get recognized for completing the 10-week season. They get a T-shirt, that type of stuff. We've had, this is our second year doing it, and a lot of the boys are repeats, and they are so excited about the program. It's really, really working well. So, if any of you have time later, I linked the article on the PowerPoint. You can kind of look up a little press that we got out of this program, which has just been fantastic.
And everyone's PowerPoint presentations and all of the documents that we go over today will be available. It's back on the main screen under documents, and we'll leave that up for several hours today after the conference call.
On most of our on most of the pages of our different partners, I have put a news article because we get press for any of our major partners that we have. So if you want to turn the page, the Volunteer Center of the Cedar Valley is another one of our large program partners. I'm sure in each of your communities you have some type of volunteer center. We are very fortunate. Ours is a very involved volunteer center. And they contacted us wanting to do a weekly program with our kids. So each week, Jean Seelan, she's our program director, she goes to each of our different sites. We have 3 sites, 3 after-school sites. And she goes to each of them for an hour, and they do different service projects at each site. They range from bagging food for the food bank to putting together packets for fundraisers, baking dog treats for the Humane Society, cleaning parks. She takes care of Global Youth Service Day for us, Martin Luther King Jr. Day for Service. They did programs for us that day too. So this has just been a great partner because they're tied in with all of the major volunteer events in the community. So that one has been a great partnership. And that came about just, like I said, we've been in the community for a while, and I've been with the Boys and Girls Club for going on 5 years now, and it was just a conversation of, hey, we do programs, with kids. Would you like us to come to your program? And that is every Monday at our Waterloo site, every Wednesday at our other school site, and then every Thursday at our other school site. So it's very consistent. We don't, it's a choice for the kids to do. We usually have about 20 kids that participate each week. So that's been a great one. If you want to switch the page. Another one that we are fortunate, we're in a larger community, so we have a university in town. We have the University of Northern Iowa, and their track and field team has been very involved with our mission, what we're doing, making sure that the team members are coming down, being involved with the kids, and then they've been great about putting on activities for our kids at the Unidome. So, it's very special when the kids get to go there. Just a couple weeks ago, they hosted a track and field day for our kids. We took 50 kids, and they learned how to do hurdles, long jump, shot put, relay races, discus, kind of the whole 9 yards. So they had a lot of fun. It was a great event that they put on for us, and this is their second year of doing that. But in addition to putting events on for us, they actually help staff our large event night. This last fall, we had our Kids Night Out, Lights On for After School event. And the way we structure that is we match 100 volunteers with 100 kids, and they go throughout our building doing different games and activities. And I had to do hardly no recruitment of volunteers because 80 of them came from the track and field team. That was fantastic. They were all coming from one place. They were all on the same page. They relate really well to our kids. So that went really, really well. And that was the second year that they've done that, too. And basically, this partnership with the track and field team came about through the relationship of the head coach and our executive director. They have become friends over the last couple of years, so it's just a matter of calling over and saying, hey, we need volunteers for this, or hey, does the track team want to come down and do this with the kids? It's working really, really well. So I also have another news article at the bottom of this page, and this is just them helping out with our Kids Night Out event. So we can switch the page. This is just continuing on another news article for our Kids Night Out event. So you want to switch the page again. Another one of our large partners is the Food Bank, and I'm assuming most of your programs are partners of the Food Bank and the Kids Cafe Feeding America program. But in addition to that, we do the Kids Cafe Nutrition Education program, which is a requirement of being a Kids Cafe site, but I know not all food banks have the luxury of having someone to staff that. So we are fortunate. The food bank goes to each of our 3 sites once a week. So they're doing 3 days of nutrition education programming for us each week for an hour. And with these programs, they do games, activities, worksheets, and then at the end of it, the kids get to make a healthy snack or try a food that they've never tried. For example, a couple weeks ago, the kids got to try jicama, which is something that a lot of them had never had or heard of. So that was pretty neat. And without having the food bank, we wouldn't be able to do something like that. We can't staff nutrition education on our own or buy the supplies for it. So they're a great partner to have. Not only do they supply our snack every day and our meal every day, but they also do the nutrition education. Fantastic. All right, if you want to switch the page. On the other side of you and I, not just the sports teams, but also the various classes, we have a large partnership with them. You and I have gone to requiring most of their majors have 460 hours of volunteer time. So as you can imagine, anybody looking, to working with kids in the future kind of come to us wanting to get their hours and experience. So this has been fantastic. Any given day, we have about 20 volunteers from different classes at UNI. And that's just at our Waterloo site. Our other school sites, which are a little smaller, have about 2 on any given day. It just really helps lower our staff-to-kid ratio. They can do more one-on-one things with the kids. They're educated people, so they can help tutor, they can help read with the kids. The kids love that one-on-one attention. A lot of them are mentors for our kids. Last fall, we started a mentor program, because we had such a large number of volunteers, we were able to do it. And when we started, we had about 5 mentor-mentee matches, and then now each day we have about 15 mentor-mentee matches. So that is just fantastic. Almost all of our regular members have a mentor, and that would not be possible without all of the hours that the college students need to graduate. So a lot of these classes require they do their hours with the Boys and Girls Club, and that is just that has come about kind of through our consistency. We make sure they have something to do when they come here. If they want to be a mentor, we make sure their mentee is here. We provide activities for them to do. The professors are really appreciating it. And a couple of our the really supportive professors are friends with our board members. So that's kind of how they've gotten involved with requiring their classes to do hours with us. All right, if you want to switch the page. Church groups, kind of a given. I'm sure in all of the communities that have after-school programs, there are churches and involve churches with that. We are very fortunate. A couple of our board members are pastors of churches, and so we were able to develop our partnerships from there. Over the last 2 years, we have done a Christmas store with Orchard Hill Church in Cedar Falls, and this last year, the Christmas store, we were able to serve over 500 families. We had around 2,300 brand new toys. Parents were able to come into our store and shop the 2,300 toys. And all of the toys were sold for either $2 or $5, depending on what the item was. And then while the parents shopped, the kids were upstairs making crafts, making presents, and then they got to wrap them. And this was the second year of the Christmas store. I have an article about it on our PowerPoint page. So if you have a chance to check it out, fantastic. The Christmas store was such a success. A bunch of other communities have kind of contacted us in Orchard Hill Church as to how to branch out into their community. So if that's something you're interested in too, I can tie you in with that information. But I know all of our families appreciated it so much. It was kind of a different take on the Christmas handouts. We didn't just give families a ton of toys or give them money to go get their toys or supplies. They were able to come purchase the gifts for their kids and kind of, feel like they bought them as opposed to just receiving them as a handout. So all of the 500 families that were here went home with 4 or 5 toys, brand new toys, and really, really appreciated all the work that was put into that. So it's a great program. Like I said, there's a link on our PowerPoint page to that article. Another one of our church groups, our board member is a pastor at Prairie Lakes Church, and they were able to do our end of summer party for us. Usually it's a huge budget strain for us. We buy some inflatables, we get some carnival games, we have popcorn, snow cones. We usually end up spending a decent chunk of money on that, but this year they put the party on for us. They bought all the supplies, they bought all the food, all the decorations, and planned and staffed the entire day for us. So another one of the things that we wouldn't have been able to do without an awesome partner like that, Prairie Lakes Church. So other churches that we partner with send volunteers, hats, mittens in the winter, game donations. We use churches for if we need a large group of volunteers for a night, we can call them up the day before and say, hey, can you send 10 volunteers out tomorrow to help with our golf night or something like that. We have such great partnerships with a lot of them that that's not a hard phone call to make at all. Another way we use church partners is for our special event nights, like our Thanksgiving dinner, for example. We contacted 2 churches asking them each if they could make 40 pies, donate 40 pies, and that was nothing for them to do, whereas for us to go out and buy 40 pies or make 40 pies ourselves is a lot. But, the church simply puts out a sign-up sheet, and it was no problem for them to do that at all. So that was a huge, huge help this year, and they've stressed it so many times that, they're just a phone call, they have large congregations, they can usually fill any need that we might have. So that has really been fantastic. Well, in a nutshell, that's a lot of the community partners we use for programs. We have some other ones, 4-H, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, just different programs that come in and out. But these are our main ones, and these ones were a little more unique. These were ones that if you're not already using, you probably have some of these organizations in your community, and they're usually more than willing to branch out and serve more kids. So that is what I had for our community partners.
Great. Thank you so much, Nicole. Does anybody have any questions for Nicole?
And I would just like to say, too, if you have a chance to look through some of those articles, it kind of goes a little more in depth as to what I said, too. So just a little more background on some of those partnerships.
Great. And we'll also have these documents up on our website on the webinar, or excuse me, not the webinar, the wiki, that will be alongside the recording of this webinar, so you can access them there as well. Oh, we have a question from Angie. How do you handle having dogs in the club when you considering kids with allergies?
Great question. We addressed this before we even started the program. We made a note to all parents telling them, and the school, because we are in 2 schools too. So we sent out a note saying we were going to have these dogs in the building different days for each site. And asked any parents with any concerns or allergies to make us aware. The school didn't have any problems. They didn't have any known allergies, and no parents came forward. When we didn't have to do anything different. Our Waterloo site, we did have a few allergy concerns from parents. So what we did with that was, they were not severe allergies by any means. The parents were just a little concerned. And actually, we had some concern from parents that, their kids didn't like dogs, or dogs were mean. These were shelter dogs. So what we did was, we have a backdoor entrance. We used the backdoor entrance, and then we have a room that we cannot have anything in due to having our kiln in there. So we can't store anything. We can't actually have any furniture or anything in there. So we just put some chairs in there when the dogs come, because they need a small room anyway, so they don't get overwhelmed. So we just put them in that small room that we do not use for any other programming. And the kids that we pick out for the program are not kids with allergies.
Great, thanks for that information. And it looks like Angie has one more question. She's typing up about the athlete mentoring. Wondering if there are options for girls with that.
Yeah, I don't know the hockey team is all boys. The Blackhawks, it's a men's team. So that is just 100% boys with boys. But our track and field team, or the volleyball team, or the wrestling teams that we partner with, it is a lot of females. When they came out for our Kids Night Out event, I said there was 80 of them. Probably 40 of them were female. So I don't know if I stressed that, but it is boys and girls. And like when we do our track and field day, it's a mix of boys and girls too.
Great, that's good to know. Okay. And Angie, with another question, if the track and hockey team, are they engaged all year long, or is it just sort of a time-limited thing?
They are all year long. Obviously, they have times where they're more involved than others. The basketball team's also part members, too. They're the head coaches on our board, and they actually just gave the kids a bunch of tickets to their last home game. So it does kind of depend on the season, but for the most part, the track and field team is involved all year round. The hockey team right now is their hockey season, and this is when we do bench buddies. And then throughout the rest of the year, they just do the Monday mentoring.
Great. Angie is giving you fair warning that she might be stealing some of your ideas. Yep, that is exactly the purpose of this. You guys have such fantastic things going on in your programs across the state, and we want to give you guys the opportunity to share those and steal away.
Yeah, steal away.
All right. Anything else for Nicole? All right. Erica, do you guys want to go next, or do we still want to wait?
We're ready to go.
Are you? Okay, great.
Good morning.
Good morning. Should I start off with your PowerPoint?
Sure, that would be wonderful.
Okay. And just let me know when you want the next slide or want to go to any of the other documents.
Okay. Over here at STARS, the interesting part about our program is that the Extension Office serves as the fiscal agent for this project. So some of the pieces, when we took a look at hiring staff, we have to make sure that those are in tune with the things that we are required to do as an agency to begin with. But when Erica and I looked at the strength of our program, it's really our staff, and we have learned a lot along the way, and these were some of the things we just wanted to share. So go ahead and advance the slide. What we want to do is we're now real clear on allowing a lot of time to hire. For summer camp, we've started the process, and we are at the point now where it should be going out to the newspapers and such on Sunday. But the other thing in our office, we are putting, I'll call it a compilation ad together, where we're posting for the other summer youth positions in our office as well as STARS, so that we can keep those costs in check. Last year, each little group was being billed about, I don't know, $300 to hire staff. So instead, we're all going to go together and place our ad and in order to keep those costs down. For our school year, we start the process in June. So we do have a little bit of an overlap. You know, when summer camp is going on, we're hiring for fall. It's kind of one of those deals. We do post our ads in the newspaper. We use online job sites as well as local college career services. I tend to have our things put in the education section as opposed to the human services section. And I do that because I like to get as many education majors as I can, especially in the summer. What we are finding is that we get a lot of social service folks during the school year. I can get teachers hired in the summer. That's been our track record here. But we also look at staff for our program as anyone who comes and spends time with kids. So we've tried to create a network that we can market in order to send us your most qualified folks. Schools, colleges, RSVP is the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, and that's through United Way. They have done a great job of recruiting some morning staff to help with our reading program. We are required to post with Workforce Development, so they are one of our partners. And last year we got our toes wet trying an AmeriCorps opportunity. But in essence, we see staff as anyone who spends time with the kids at our program. We're also real into the online application as an option. And that online piece, you know, helps for folks who have insomnia and just want to be hired by STARS people and spend the summer with our kids so they can fill out their online piece in the middle of the night. Why don't you go ahead and advance the slide for me?
The next thing that we do is we pick the top candidates. And when we first opened our doors, we made the critical mistake that we looked for warm bodies. And there's a big difference between the top candidates and warm bodies. The other thing that we do is we want to include key people in the process. So we always have 2 people do interviews or more. We make sure that one person is always asking the series of questions, and I believe we've included those, and we have one person take notes. Part of that note-taking piece is required for our agency, but I also think it gives you a good paper trail to go back and look at as you're making your decisions. The other thing that we do with our candidates, we don't interview everyone who applies, and we also score those applications before we have folks come to interviews. So we know what we're requiring to look at and what we prefer to look at. And we only interview the top scoring folks. What we tend to do is if the face-to-face interview goes really well, then we do invite folks to come for a site visit. And we do that for a couple reasons. First of all, we can gauge how well their working with kids skills are. Are they good? Are they not so good? Are they wallflowers? Do they only talk to primarily our college-age staff? Or do they jump in and ask the kids questions about what they do with STARS? You've got a great way to see them in action. There have been times where we've asked the kids, you know, what did you think about this person? Did you enjoy them? We get a little bit of that youth feedback. And it also allows for the interviewee to decide, is this really where I want to work? You know, summers at an out-of-school time program are long days. And if they cannot see themselves there for, 6+ hours, it's not the right fit. And for some folks, I thought they would be super staff. They didn't see themselves as fitting there. And, they pulled themselves out of consideration for a position. And that's okay. I would rather know that on the front end than 2 weeks in and we have to hire staff. That gets a little messy. We do ask for 3 references. We do checks on at least 2 of them. And we ask the same series of questions of all the references, so we have a consistency about what we do. We have also started checking social media, and we look at their Facebook pages. And that can tell you a lot. Some folks do a really good job of having a secure Facebook page. Other folks leave everything wide open. But we do that for every single candidate. We go through our mandatory background checks that we're required to do. And if things are moving along fine, then we also offer a job. There have been some days where things have gone so well that we've been able to offer a job the day that they interview. We did that last year, I remember. We do mail out responses to all of the applicants, so they're not left wondering, did I get hired, did I not, am I getting interviewed, am I not? That ambiguousness, if you're a job hunter, doesn't leave a good taste in your mouth. And, we have only a limited number of positions to offer. We do keep our applications. There have been times where we've gone back if we've already interviewed people and we have an opportunity to hire them for something else. We do make that offer at times. We make sure that we have a real clear letter of intent with the new hire and the probationary expectations. The salary piece, and usually it's an hourly wage, we take a look at their education, their experience, but we've also set our baseline worker level looking at what our partners in the area pay their staff. We've got some after-school folks that run through school programs where they might be paid, $2 more, but then we've got other folks that are on the low end. We try to make sure that somewhere we're in the middle. Turnover for us has not been a problem. And I think a lot of that goes to, the great foundation that we've put together. Can you go to the next slide? And Erica's going to talk about how we sustain our super staff.
Yes, we do want to keep them around, and we've actually been quite fortunate with having our staff. Actually, we've had the same staff continue for at least 1 to 2 years every year. So right now we have staff that have been with me for 3 years, which has been such a blessing, and also probably helps us financially too. So here's some tips for keeping them around. First of all, you want to start with a great orientation. Just this year, I've been starting to use the QRS New Employee Checklist, which is through the Iowa Department of Human Services. And it's just kind of a basic guideline as to things to go over with each new staff. Some of it maybe isn't as relevant. You'll just have to look at that for your own organization. And I do have that attached, too, if you want to look at what that looks like. Then you both sign that at the end, and then I give a copy to the employee. I also give them a staff handbook, which has a lot of specifics about our program, including safety policies, which is, those what if questions. What if there's a dog on the playground? How do we handle that? And that's just good to kind of cover as many bases as you can with your staff. And also, I require them to do some training within that, ideally, first month of employment. All of our staff go through first aid and CPR training. The next thing to sustain staff is to communicate often and to communicate well. If you can do this daily, that is ideal. At 3:30 every day, our staff get together for about 10 to 15 minutes and chat about what happened the night before, what's going to go on that week. This is a great time to talk about any concerns with specific children, or maybe something that came up with a parent, or even the school. But we seem to get a lot covered in that 10 to 15 minutes, and it's just a good way to start a new day. Every Friday, I send staff an email in regards to the next week of our program, just kind of with the outline of who's going to be working again that week, to clarify any concerns that came up the previous week, and to go over programming. It's amazing how I make a calendar out ahead of time, but it's amazing how many things can change, and so it's good just to keep everybody informed. The next thing is to catch staff doing the right things. We all love to be bragged about, and so brag about your staff. Brag about the whole team, to schools, to teachers and parents and kids, and so just those general comments. I have great staff. They're so responsible, or they really care about kids. And then also you want to brag about individual staff, which I have found can be actually teaching moments. So if I would say, during our 3:30 meeting, Tanya, I really appreciated how you spoke with that parent last night. You were clear about what our expectations were. You showed compassion. And so not only am I bragging about that individual staff, I'm also kind of coaching the other staff as to maybe how they would handle that situation. We have regular staff meetings to problem solve and celebrate, and we try to do these at least quarterly, and more if something would come up. But during our regular staff meetings, we try to spend the first half an hour with just talking about, what things have worked this past quarter, or what things haven't. What have been some personal successes? What have been some personal challenges? How can we support each other and improve? We also try to give our staff a lot of professional development opportunities. We want them to grow as individuals as well as be good staff. And so we've had staff able to go to the SPARK training, which is the PE curriculum. Of course, they do the first aid, CPR, and universal precautions. I'm bringing one of my site coordinators with me to the meeting on the 28th, so just to expose them to as much as we financially can. We do evaluations throughout the year. They have one after the 4-month probationary period, and that's just kind of a check-in to see, are you feeling good about this? Is this a good fit for you? It could be a time where I would give some maybe guidance as to how, maybe they could improve with certain things, or it's a good checkup, basically. And during this time, too, I make sure that they have fulfilled some of the requirements we've asked them to do. During the summer camp, staff are asked to journal throughout the summer, preferably on a daily basis. And it's more just reflective. So much goes on during the day. It's just a time for them to stop and kind of think about some of those successes that they've had, about some of the student successes, maybe share a little bit about the relationships they've built with the kids, those Oprah moments. And those are really been crucial to us when we go about our evaluation process. Just to be able to share those personal stories
it's really important. It gets the anecdotal part, that the hard data doesn't always tell.
Right. And then annually, our staff go through an evaluation, which is also attached there. And they'll just ask some basic, some of it's very general, like, are they punctual? Do they engage with students appropriately? How do they discipline with fairness? Are they a positive role model? But then it also gives them a chance to reflect too, what parts of this job have you enjoyed? What would you want to change about the position? What have been your successes, your challenges? What do you bring? What training do you think would help you do a better job at this position? Then I kind of share some of the strengths I see the staff have, or maybe some things that I think that they could work on. And sometimes this can allow for a possible salary increase. I've typically done 50-cent increase per year with my staff if they do well with their annual evaluation, if they've met all their certifications. So I think that that's a good way to show them that we appreciate them being our staff.
Do you want to go ahead and go to the next slide? Well, we have the job description in there.
Okay, yeah, I think it's not advancing to the next slide, so that might be the end of what I've got. So job description.
Yep. Yep, pull that up. Thank you. When you look at the job description, it's real clear, the terms, the duties, and if you can scroll down, we have the qualifications. So when we go to score, we score based upon those the duties, the qualifications, that type of thing. We put a rubric together. One of our biggest challenges is we're needing some guys. We need a few good men for summer. So we're really trying to use our local partnerships to see how we can attract those guys to be part of our summer program. But that, in essence, is the job description. We try to have it set up so that our support staff, our secretarial staff, have it really laid out for them. And if there are further questions, then they get referred to Erica or to myself. Can you go to the next one, please?
Which one would you like?
Oh, the evaluation is fine.
Okay.
I'm so glad you're doing that part.
Yeah.
Here is, and Erica talked about it, here's a sample of the staff evaluation. And at the end of summer, our summer staff would be evaluated. And if they have done really well and they're living local and we want to keep them, then we then have a conversation about being part of our during the school year team. And that's where we've been able to have some of that longevity that Erica talked about. So that's the evaluation. It does go in their file. They get a copy, all of that good stuff. And can we go to the next one?
All right. Interview questions?
That would be fine.
Okay.
These are the series of interview questions that we ask. Along the way, when we've done interviews, we've had some folks that we did not bring to a site visit because they didn't know what constructive criticism was. And these were college students. And that, for us is a big part of what we do. So, we also look at some problem-solving scenarios. We don't exactly expect perfect answers on those, but if they're at least headed down the right road of where we want them to go, that means that, we would allow them to come visit our program. And that series of questions we ask of everyone that we interview. And the next one, I think, is the letter of intent, maybe the reading teacher work plan.
Okay.
Everyone that agrees to be part of our team in a paid way, be it, one of our partners, be it that we're hiring them to be our employee, we make sure that we have a real clear work plan. Sometimes it's called a letter of intent, but we spell out, here are the expectations that we have of you as we enter this agreement, and here are the things that we are prepared to provide to you. We do ask for everyone to sign it, and it goes into our appropriate files. But the more things that are clearly spelled out in the work agreement or letter of intent, the better off you will be in the long run. And can you go to the QRS document? I think that was the last one that we had.
Is this the gosh.
New employee checklist?
There we go. Okay.
That part is what Erica spoke about earlier through Department of Human Services. Our goal has been, to be as close to licensure as humanly possible, and I'm really glad she found this framework because it does a really nice job of laying out what the expectations are, and it provides, again, that real clear communication that we want during orientation. I think it's a great-looking document, and by spelling that out in the beginning, everybody's on the same page when you get to the point that you're working with kids. Yeah. Those are all of our documents. If anyone has questions, we're happy to entertain those.
And just as a reminder, all of this information will be up on the wiki site after the webinar, along with the recording of the webinar. Any questions? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing about all of your great staffing strategies. I think this will be wonderful information for everybody. Okay. Well, in that case, Angie, I'm going to turn on your microphone and turn it over to you. I'll pull up your PowerPoint here.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me?
All right. I may have to turn her up so folks on the phone can hear. All right, Angie, do you want to try talking? See?
Can you guys hear me?
I can. I'm not sure that's going to come through on the conference line. Let me see if I can turn up all of my volumes. Let's see. Sorry, everyone. I now have a new computer, so just when I finally figured out all of the ins and outs of the last. Okay, I think this is as loud as I go. Angie, do you want to go to your microphone little icon and adjust the volume so it's as loud as it can be?
Still not hearing back. Okay.
All right. Yeah, that's definitely better.
Is that better?
Angie, do you want to see? Yeah. Can you folks on the conference line hear Angie talking? Angie, do you want to?
I will do my alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S. Okay, yay! Oh,
No.
oh, Barbara.
You may want to, Barb, make sure you've got, another option is if folks do have the webinar going, you could turn your computer speakers on and hear her through your computer, and we'll just not worry about any feedback. Okay, we may have it.
Yet? Barbara and Sherry, are you there yet? Can you hear me? I feel like the Verizon guy. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Barb and Sherry, do you guys have any luck? Barb says yes. Nicole says barely. Yes. All right.
I'm on
well, let's just get
as loud as I can go. So. I will try to be really loud.
All right. Thanks, Angie. Why don't we go ahead?
Okay. Well, basically, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we actually do all of our programming in an age-based format. We divide our kids up by grade. If you want to move to the next slide, that'd be awesome. The reason we've chosen to break the kids down by this format is about 2 years ago, our district removed the 6th graders from the elementary school, sent them up to the middle schools, and what I found was that the older kids were feeling trapped and feeling like they were having a difficult time studying or completing their homework tasks. So I decided at that point that I would try something different other than the multi-age setting, which is super, super popular right now, and has a lot of benefits of its own. Our kids are broken down kindergarten and 1st grade, so they start at about 5, and toward the end of the year, we might have 1 or 2 7-year-olds. Our 2nd graders, again, they start at 8 and they go up to 9. And 4th and 5th graders, we've got some 9-year-olds up to 11-year-olds. Next slide, please, Erin. I really do like so many aspects of the multi-age setting. Some of the pros that we see in this are the peer-to-peer mentoring between, the older kids and the younger kids. The ability to encourage those high-achieving, 2nd and 3rd graders to work a little bit harder because they want to be able to hang with the 4th and 5th graders. The many different experiences that our kids bring to the table helps each of them offer something different to other members. And it creates almost like a sense of family-type community among the Learning Center members. Next slide, please. Cons. The number one problem that I saw was bullying. The 4th and 5th graders would get frustrated, they'd feel bored, and they would feel like, their second grade sister was always in their way or was making it hard for them to finish their homework, so they would bully. And nobody wants that. A lot of times, some of the older members felt intimidated because some of the younger members were higher achieving. A lot of times it was hard to create challenging enough programming for the older members because you wanted to be able to include everybody. The different skill levels and skill sets made it difficult to create focused enough one-on-one programming to address the needs of every member. And then lastly, it required an enormous amount of planning on the part of the staff, and a lot of times that planning would kind of fall apart when there'd be that proverbial wrench thrown into the works. Because you never know if you're going to have, 2nd graders who are all riled up that day, and they're going to make it hard for the 1st graders to grasp the concepts that you guys are showing in that game that you're playing. And we decided that it was time to find a better solution. Next slide, please, Erin. Planning was one of our biggest concerns. I have a very small staff. However, we are located in a really big club. So in order for our 21st Century program to really hold on to its members, we have to be more exciting. We have to be more engaging than what we've got going on in the games room. Because there's a lot of competition out there. There's Wii and pool and ping pong. So we've really got to bring our A game with our planning. And making this division allowed us to do that. When we divided up, we found that we had better results with our homework time and being able to provide the assistance for kids who needed it. We also are able to, stay in touch on the same baseline as our teachers, because we know that we are working specifically with Miss Taylor's fourth graders and Miss Munch's fifth graders. So these are the teachers that we are going to be engaging the most intently, and we can stay online with what they're doing. Also, the state makes available what their standards are for each grade, and that has allowed us to really kind of build our programming goals around what the state's goals are. It also allows us, when it's getting closer to time for state assessment, to work better with the kids to help them understand what's coming down the pipe. We're able to set goals that are more specific to where these kids should be. I'm a firm believer that if you set the bar high, kids will jump high. I don't want to be putting the option out there for a fourth grader to be performing on a first grade level. No matter what the case is, no matter what the kids are bringing in, I always want them to be at a place where they are shooting as high as they can. Having that opportunity to be separate from the younger kids does that. And in turn, having that bar set high, each time those kids come closer to reaching that goal, their confidence goes up, which just takes them actually a little bit further down the line. Next slide, please. The benefits that the members have seen. Our members are able to work on their classroom projects with members of their classroom. That's been huge this year. This allows us to create clubs within the club that match the interests and skill sets of the members. The members are able to develop age-appropriate social skills, which has been enormous for some of my kids. Their homework time is uninterrupted. Lily isn't having to stop to tie Mia's shoes, and Zach isn't having to stop to help Justin. The kids are developing their own individual identities, they're developing their own individual interests, and they're able to meet all of their requirements for the day. So that's been huge for the kids. And these are actually, these last two ones were ideas that the kids actually gave me, the uninterrupted homework time and the individual interests and identities. That was huge for the kids. That's something that my older kids have stressed that they really like about the change. Next slide, please. We do make sure that there is time for multi-age. The fourth and fifth graders, when they do a cooking project, they will work with a little kid buddy. So they're still doing their projects, but they're also getting a chance to spend time with the younger kids. The photograph is actually of our youth leadership club called Torch Club. It's a Boys and Girls Clubs of America program that allows kids to serve their club and their community, and it's been amazing. The older kids have really connected with the younger members. When we are out in free time in the games room, the younger members feel comfortable going to the big kids and saying, can you help me get the Wii started, or can you help me get to this website? And the older members have a good enough relationship with these younger members that they don't feel constantly infringed upon, because it's just not happening all day, every day. So that's been really, really big for the kids too. Next slide, please. One of my favorite things about my job is that I am in constant conversation and communication with my classroom teachers. The kindergarten teachers, the first grade teachers have said that our kindergartners and first graders and even some of our second graders are some of the most independent kids in their classrooms. And I think it's because they don't have that crutch to lean on during the school day or during the after school programming. So during the school day, they're taking that skill with them into the classroom. Fourth and fifth grade students have been able to improve their reading scores so high that almost all of my kids are now reading on grade level in the fourth and fifth grade. And the ones who are not at grade level have shown enormous growth in the last year. I think the slightest jump on my kids' SRI scores between September and December was actually 78 points, and that was the smallest growth. So my kids have done remarkably well being able to focus on what they're doing and not worrying about what the little kids are doing. Second and third graders are amazingly competent and capable now at doing long-term projects. They blow my mind. They've just completed their volcano unit, and they've been working on this program for a month, and it culminated with the building of a volcano cake that actually erupted. And they were so in tune with what they were doing throughout the whole process that this was actually the best month of attendance for the second and third graders. So it's working out really well so far. Next slide, please. Do I have a next slide?
I don't think so. It doesn't seem to want to go anywhere.
Fair enough. But I'm totally open to questions about how it's worked. I mean, one of our greatest benefits is that we are fortunate to be in a large enough building that we have the space to give each of the groups their own space. But if there isn't the option to do that, one of the things that you should look into, or if you're interested in doing it like this, is maybe having like a half hour, 45-minute break where each of the age groups gets to spend time alone, and maybe you could do carpet time with them, where fourth and fifth graders can go to the carpet from this time to this time, and this is when you guys can focus on getting your homework done. You can focus on doing projects that are appropriate for your age group, what have you. I cannot imagine doing it any differently at this point. It's just been so good for my kids, and it's been great for my staff. I've managed to have the same staff now for almost 2.5 years, and they have grown as staff. This has afforded them the opportunity to better focus their efforts as well. I just can't help but see this as a win-win. And we do spend a lot of time as a community. We eat snack together, we eat dinner together, we do projects together. Every month we offer a family night, and so all of our families come together and we play bingo or we watch a movie. We always make sure that there is time for that multi-age opportunity, but in the end, for my kids here at Roosevelt, going with the age-based planning has been the best option for us. If anyone has any questions, I am totally down to answer.
Any questions for Angie about the way they structure their program? Right? I think you have just blown them all away, Angie.
I have that effect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for suffering me so kindly. However, I have to get into a training.
Okay.
So I'm going to log out.
Absolutely. And I think that wraps us up, unless we've got any other comments for the good of the cause. Thank you so much, Angie, and thank you everyone else for participating today. We'll have the recording of this webinar up on the website, as well as all of the documents that were shared today. And feel free to contact me with any questions or contact your peers. There's the contact information on the contact page of the webinar. Thank you all so much and have a great day.